Alright, I've had nothing but trouble trying these berries bullets in 44 Special. Normally, I would just move on to another bullet type, but there's not a ton of cheap alternatives out there in 44 caliber. The only other one I know of is Zero brand 44 caliber bullets. They're pretty cheap, but they're not always in stock, and a lot of times shipping ends up kind of killing the deal. The main reason I even have a few boxes of these berries bullets is that they went on an absolutely killer sale a few years ago, and it made them even cheaper than cast bullets. Now, they work fine for me in 44 Magnum. I think that's because that's a much higher pressure round, but I'm really struggling with 44 Special using them. I think crimping is actually kind of where I'm running into issues with this. With plated bullets, they warn you not to crimp them too deeply because it's a lot easier to break through the copper plating than it is through like full metal jacket bullets. That being said, these are the thick plated bullets with a max velocity of 1850 feet per second, which, like, no way can I get that velocity even out of my lever action with 44 Magnum. That leads me to believe that the plating on these is probably not that much weaker than regular full metal jacket. I want to run a couple of tests. First thing I want to try is to test out the varying levels of crimp using the Lee factory crimp die and examining just to see if we're like biting through the jacket, or I guess the plating in this case. I mean, even if we do, it's just going to lead to a little bit of leading, which isn't that big of a deal, but it can affect accuracy. After that, I want to test out some jacketed hollow points as well. Now, the Hornady manual is where we're going to take our load data from today, as their test firearm is a 3-inch Bulldog revolver, and my Model 69 is a 2.75-inch revolver. So we should be getting similar velocities as to the published data. I'm going to try out one of the upper mid-range charges I used in the previous video using the Berries bullets and also the XTPs. Then I want to try out the highest velocity listed in the Hornady manual of 8.3 grains of accurate number 5 and see what I end up getting. I really want to figure out a good 44 Special load for a couple reasons. It's still cold outside, and I want a mid-range 44 Special load to have fun at the range for. And I kind of want to stick with plated bullets because I really want to try to reduce lead exposure in the air with an indoor range. The second reason is my Henry Model X cycles 44 Special just fine, and I have a suppressor for it now. And 44 Special is kind of inherently subsonic, well, at least the loads I'm going to work up for it is. The Underwood 44 Special I have is actually kind of supersonic through my lever action when I tried it, but I got around 900 feet per second out of my revolver, which is about 50 feet per second faster than even the hottest Hornady load listed. So here's the plan. I'm going to make up 5 dummy rounds, starting at a light crimp and working all the way up to the max crimp. I'm going to choose brass cases that are all pretty much the same length, so that shouldn't affect it. I'm not going to bother with resizing. I'm just going to flare the case, put the bullet in, an overall length of 1.45 inches, or that's what Berries lists as their recommended overall length, but I find that those are actually a little too long to fit exactly in the cannula. I'm just going to put them whatever looks like it's in the cannula and go from there. I really like using the Lyman M die for this. I'll kind of just show you. So I'll back it out most of the way, put the case in there, and then you can just screw it down until you start feeling resistance. Oop, there we go. And then give it, so that's the second ledge of the M die. So you go 1, 2, 3. See how that is. Needs a little bit more. So go another 1, 2. See what that gets me. That felt like a good ledge there. And there we go. Yeah, there we go. Okay, so I got them all expanded. Now I'm going to seat the bullets. Screw it in until it touches. Then for special cases, back out 3 full turns. 1, 2, 3, and then do a little bit more just so I can see the markings. I'll lock that in. Okay, no resistance. Or still got a ways to go. Probably not good on the die to do that, but it's all right. So I'll put it in another 50, or well, I guess 60 to line it up. Still a good ways to go. Yep, that's right at the bottom of the cannular. Let's see what that measures at. 1.460. So I guess, so if we go by the berry site, we just need to go another 10 in. .450. So that's what Barry suggested. We are maybe barely in the cannular. I think, let's see what another 10 looks like. That's looking better, but I think we can go maybe another 10. Well, go another 5. That's definitely in the cannular now. I'll take a look at another bullet, compare them. I think I might actually have to go a little bit farther. Do another 5, so 20 thousandths shorter than recommended. Okay, that looks good. We'll go with that. That's definitely in the cannular. So, see the other ones. 1.430, 1.433. It doesn't matter if they're all the exact same overall length. What matters more is the length of the case and the fact that they're all in the cannular, which so far they're all looking pretty much right in the middle of it. But I did have to go 20 thousandths shorter than recommended. Probably should have flared these just a slight bit more. This one was fine though. 1.433. So these are all within 3 thousandths of each other. All right, so next we're gonna just crimp these. The Lee factory crimp die, just screw it in until it touches. Good contact, lock it in, and screw it out till we see the threads. Wow, that's enough. Okay, so there's got solid contact. Now I put a dot on this at the top. Not sure how easy that is to see, but for the light crimp per the booklet, we want to do a half turn. So that's a half turn right there. Okay, felt a little bit of resistance, but not much. Then we're gonna do a little bit more. Now we'll do a 3/4 crimp. Ooh, that doesn't feel great. Then we'll do almost a full crimp. Ooh, that's a lot of pressure on that. And we are definitely crimped on that one. And lastly, full crimp. Full send. Ooh, that feels terrible. Oh. Yep, that's crimped. That is definitely crimped. All right. Now we pull the bolts and see what we get. So here's the results from crimping. There's probably no way you're going to be able to see this, but I'll see if I can show something. So this is the first bullet with the lightest crimp. You can't really even see an indentation where it crimped, so I don't think that's really a good enough crimp for this. The crimp plus the half crimp plus a little bit, you can start to see a little bit of a line. This is basically where I would normally crimp it for 44 special, but it definitely is not breaking through the copper on that one. Now the 3/4 crimp one, there is a definite line you can see at the top end of the cannular where it's definitely digging in, but I can't see any lead or can't see any gray. It doesn't really look like it's broken through the jacket, or at least compared to the full crimp, it doesn't look like it's broken through the jacket. Now at kind of like 4/5 of a crimp, that's when you start to see like it's dug in there pretty deep, but I still don't see any gray. I don't see any lead, but it definitely looks like it's breaking at that point, but maybe just hasn't completely broken through. I don't know. It's hard to say. But I think like this amount of crimp is maybe just a bit too much. And then I do see the full crimp is definitely too much. Here, again, I don't think you're going to be able to see it, but there's a really deep line where it's been, crimped in, and it's definitely broken away. You can see, you have to look really closely, but you can see gray in like there's a tiny gray ring around the entire thing where it's broken through essentially. So I think 3/4 of a crimp is where I'm going to go with this. That's kind of where I normally crimp like XTPs or full metal jacket bullets. So It seems like I think these plated bullets can take that much of a crimp, so I'm gonna give it a shot. All right, so we got them loaded up. The plan here was to test out the crimps. So for these three, I'm using 7.7 grains of accurate number 5. So this one is what the crimp I normally use on the plated bullets, which is, with the factory crimp die, half crimp is a light crimp, full or half turn is a light crimp, full turn is a full crimp or heavy crimp. So this is a half turn, so light crimp plus a little bit more. This one is 3/4 of a crimp. And this one was the one where I wasn't quite sure based on the crimp testing if it was cutting through the plating, but this one's about 5/6 of a crimp on the factory crimp die. And then for these two, this is the max charge listed in the Hornady manual of 8.3 grains. Both of them I'm doing 3/4 of a crimp, but on this one we have the berries bullets. And slight mulligan, I was going to use the XTPs, but I apparently I'm out of those, so we're using these Zero brand bullets, jacketed soft points. But these also have a pretty deep cannular on them, so should get a really good crimp on it. So we'll see what we get. And we're back from the range with mixed results. So with my crimp testing using 7.7 grains of accurate number 5, the crimp I've been using up till now, which was a half turn on the Lee Factory crimp die plus a bit more, just to be gentle on the copper plating, gave an average of 595 feet per second. Increasing that crimp to 3/4 of a turn on the crimp die gave me an average of 600 feet per second. So not really enough difference to make a difference. The resulting cases looked about the same as well. Some unburnt powder, still kind of sooty cases. There was, however, a noticeable increase in velocity using the, we'll say about 5/6 crimp. I basically went to 3/4 of a turn on the crimp die and then went a little bit more. This crimp got me a velocity of 623 feet per second with a standard deviation of 13. I don't really remember my statistics class very well, but this does seem like a noticeable increase in velocity. Unfortunately, per the Hornady manual, they were using a 3-inch Bulldog revolver and they were getting around 750 feet per second using 7.7 grains. It's disappointing, but I do think I was babying these plated bullets a little bit too much crimp-wise. I was still seeing some unburnt powder and sooty cases with this, but the heavier crimp did seem to help a little bit. I did have more luck using the maximum charge of 8.3 grains. So first, 8.3 grains of accurate number 5 using berries bullets with 3/4 of a turn on the factory crimp die gave me what's still kind of an anemic velocity of 657 feet per second. I still saw a bit of unburnt powder. The cases were a little sooty, but this time the carbon wasn't going very far back on the case, so I think it was actually getting a bit of a seal on the chamber. I did get significantly better results using the Zero brand jacketed soft points. Those have a pretty wide and solid cannular. For those, I got an average of 688 feet per second. I was still seeing a little bit of unburnt powder and a little bit of soot on the cases, but it wasn't bad at all. It was pretty much just right around the rim of the case. So, what have I learned today? Well, the copper plating on these berries thick-plated 44 mag bullets is not as weak as I thought it was, and I don't need to baby the crimp as much as I've been doing. But unfortunately, I think with these low pressures, I'm not going to be able to use these berries bullets with 44 special. That is assuming this isn't an issue with the powder. Even using the jacketed soft points, I'm still getting way under the expected velocity of 800 feet per second out of a 8.3 grain charge. The powder's maybe 3 years old. It's been stored well. I mean, it's possible I got like a lemon of a bottle, but it doesn't smell or look off at all. And I'm not about to open an entire new bottle just to test this out. It also could be the Hornady manual being a little, optimistic with those velocities. Maybe once I run through my current bottle, or I guess if I do more testing with using accurate number 5 and 9mm, or I guess more likely in like 45 ACP, and if it comes up really anemic in those, maybe it is the powder. However, I do think I can use the Zero brand jacketed soft points for my 44 special at that max load using accurate number 5. I could even bump the charge up a little bit since I'm going through a Magnum revolver, and I got, okay results using Zero bullets with the 8.3 grains of accurate number 5. So I'm probably just actually going to stick with that. I have a few bottles of accurate number 5, which is the main reason why I want to use it up for this. I could always use another powder, but I really want to, utilize the powder I have with the increasing powder prices. So for now, unfortunately, the berries bullets are going to have to be regulated to 44 Magnum use only. That's fine. It doesn't really help me though during the winter, and it doesn't help me with my lever action either. I suppose for that I'm going to have to try out some different powders. The next powder I think I could use for that would be Tight Group. I have a decent amount of that left, so I'll have to try that out with 44 Special. Anyway, thanks for watching.